With Resident Evil Requiem announced, it makes you realize how far Resident Evil has come. From defining the zombie survival horror genre in the 90s to popularizing over-the-shoulder third-person shooters in the 2000s, but hitting its low points due to an identity crisis and shift to action-oriented titles during the 7th generation of consoles, and now its successful return to survival horror since Resident Evil 7. Requiem marks the 9th mainline entry into this legendary horror franchise, and it looks like they're still maintaining the momentum of classic horror formula that has worked so well in the past few years. Because that classic formula worked, remaking the older games brought so much renewed interest to the franchise. And we believe it will continue to work. With RE9's protagonist being the daughter of Alyssa Ashcroft, we think it's high time an underrated Resident Evil spin-off from the PS2 era gets some of that remake love as well. A game that embodied classic Resident Evil just before RE4 changed everything. It was a game that was ambitious for its time. To varying degrees of success, it featured online multiplayer for the PlayStation 2 at a time when online play wasn't as normalized. Nonetheless, it was a true Resident Evil entry, more so than many of the spin-offs in the franchise. So, join us today as we talk about why Resident Evil Outbreak needs to be remade. File 2 included. Resident Evil 2 Remake has proven that Resident Evil's classic formula of horrific atmosphere and extreme tension is timeless. You can see how the gameplay loop of exploration and dealing with hard-to-kill zombies while worrying about limited resources and inventory management leaves players on edge even to this day. Match that with the amazing visuals and ambience that the RE engine creates, and it just feels so good to play. And it isn't just something that works on mere nostalgia. RE2 Remake really is one of the best survival horror games you can play in 2025. What makes this a good case for an Outbreak remake is its ability to represent all of that. The original was already more of what RE2 and 3 offered, by showcasing a variety of scenarios during the Raccoon City incident in a remake while playing as normal characters. It's hard to doubt that it's a recipe for success. The cast of average Joes makes the experience more grounded than playing as a STARS member or a government agent. It really gives you a glimpse of what it felt like being a regular Raccoon City local during this apocalyptic event. These characters come with their own unique abilities and drawbacks, which add further depth to the gameplay. Playing as Yoko gives you access to her 8-slot inventory thanks to her backpack, while other characters only have 4-slot inventories. However, she also has the lowest stats among the characters. She has the lowest health, slowest speed, and the squishiest defense. Grace Ashcroft's mother, Alyssa, is capable of using her lockpick to access unique areas and is a good shot. Second only to Kevin, an RCPD officer who is the closest you'll ever get to playing as Leon Kennedy in this game. Expanding upon the potential gameplay variety you could get from having to play as different characters is something exciting that a remake could further improve upon. Not only is it a chance to fix some balance issues that would make an already amazing game even greater, but it's also an opportunity for Capcom to add new mechanics to shake up the formula when playing certain characters. For example, the remake could expand upon David's toolkit from the original, which could lead to new crafting mechanics that could be invaluable to the party. So many new ideas can now be executed due to the fact that whatever hardware limitations the PS1 had have long been surpassed. The variety of scenarios across both Outbreak games is no joke either. The tutorial level at Jim's Bar has the classic zombie outbreak scenario of seeing an establishment get overrun by zombies. Another level has you take refuge in a cabin in the Arklay Mountains and still end up running into infected creeps. Oh, and another one takes place in a zoo, complete with a zombie elephant. You also get to revisit areas from the old games, like the Underground Laboratory, RPD, and Raccoon General Hospital, which is convenient, given how assets from the RE engine already exist for those levels. Resident Evil Outbreak is good old classic RE, and that on its own is good enough justification for a remake on almost the same level as something like Code Veronica. But there's also the one part of the game's identity that makes it unique from the other entries. It's multiplayer. If there's anything to be said about Outbreak's co-op multiplayer, it's that it was too ahead of its time. Online multiplayer for consoles wasn't as accessible as it is today, and Capcom officially closed the servers for the game in 2007. But in this era where zombie survival co-op games are everywhere, a game like a Resident Evil Outbreak remake shouldn't be out of place. Besides, Resident Evil is no stranger to different types of multiplayer. Co-op play has been a thing since Resident Evil 5, and was a feature seen in some of the low points of the franchise, namely RE6 and Operation Raccoon City. But the series has had some decent survival horror cooperative play in the Revelations 2 spin-off, incorporating a bit of the teamwork mechanics found in RE6, but in a premise that leaned back into the franchise's roots. A sense of teamwork matters. It might seem obvious, but many games fall into the trap of merely having multiple players be in the same space together. It's possible to be playing together without having shared interactivity, which could lead to a boring experience. Good co-op design means creating mechanics that lead players to interact with each other in order to accomplish a common goal, and makes it fun while doing it. Much of the two-player RE titles have done that. Heck, even Resident Evil Resistance had some of those high-stakes co-op moments, as players had to watch each other's backs and complement each other's abilities in order to outsmart the player mastermind. Besides, Outbreak itself already incentivized a similar form of teamwork. It just wasn't as feasible for those who played the game with AI companions. Most players have limited inventory, making it more efficient for players to coordinate on who gets what, and to pass around items when necessary. Anyone playing as Cindy can be relied upon for carrying herbs, due to her ability to carry more of those than anyone else, while playing as George allows one to create stronger medicine from said herbs. Just from that, you can see how your team's survivability can improve if you communicate with your teammates to make the most out of each person's abilities. Unlike other games in the franchise, characters don't die from taking too much damage. Instead, it puts them in a down state and will rapidly increase their virus gauge. Getting that up to 100% is what will result in turning into a zombie. However, players can help each other back up to their feet to prevent the rapid infection. So long as players help each other as much as they can, it dramatically increases the chances of players making it out alive. Zombies can be relentless in some levels, more so than the other single-player entries, which is fitting because it further incentivizes players to work together in exploration and make the best out of their resource scarcity. You can have someone distract the zombies to give way for other players. You can block doors with your body, delaying the zombies, which buys time for your allies. But it wasn't always effective in the original. Still, it's all the more reason that the game needs a remake. It has so many good ideas for immersive survival horror with friends. A modern zombie co-op game should learn from those that came before. Programming something like Left 4 Dead's AI director is perfect for Outbreak, since it would ensure that each run of a linear scenario won't play exactly the same and will adapt to the player's situation. Of course, we're not asking players to deal with L4D zombie waves. That would be a nightmare in the context of RE2 and 3 remake controls. Scenario replays will get old really fast if zombie and item placements aren't shaken up every time. Communication was a problem back in the original game, but it's not gonna be a problem in a remake, as voice chat and convenient ping systems are everywhere in games today. Of course, the game should also be feasible in single player. Getting AI behavior similar to the one we got in RE6 could work, but it might also be good to have the character switching mechanic found in Revelations 2. RE could also use a new multiplayer project after it planned to shut down the not so well known Reverse game. It may already even be gone by the time this video comes out. We're not sure how a Resident Evil 5 remake is going to work, because that was the start of the franchise's true shift away from survival horror. Right now, there are still a few amazing spin-offs that we'd be more comfortable with. Not just Outbreak, but games like Code Veronica as well. Well, there you have it. An Outbreak remake doesn't just work well because of the other successful remakes, but also because we've seen so many other decent survival horror co-op experiences. There's so many ways a Resident Evil Outbreak remake could work, and we're at this point that we can easily trust Capcom's way of doing things. They just need to actually do it. So what about you? Did you ever play Outbreak? What RE games do you want to see get a new coat of paint? Or maybe you want to see an entirely new spin-off from the RE series? Tell us in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Like if you like, subscribe for more other video game content. This has been Game8, and we'll see you in the next video.